Hey, I'm Amanda, wife, mother, and follower of Christ, and welcome to the Ducks in a Row podcast. I'm a homeschool mama and entrepreneur, and I have a master's degree in social work with a passion for helping others organize their life. Buckle up for a ride into sharing all I know about time management, productivity, crushing goals, wellness, organizing, and faith. I am so glad you're here, and I hope I can help you get your ducks in a row. Hey guys, I just wanted to talk to you really quick about my latest offering through Ducks in a Row called Virtual Organizing. So what is virtual organizing? Well, first we start with a free consult call where we get to know each other and your organizing needs. I will then develop an estimate for organizing your space based on photos and videos that you send me. Once you've agreed, I will begin to develop a very comprehensive outline on how and what to purge from the space and then how to reorganize it. I will also include a vision board for the space, including photos and links to possible products and organizing solutions. Then you do the work and I'm available via voice texting or email to guide you, provide accountability, and answer any and all questions you might have. If this is something that sounds good to you, that you think you might need for your space or for someone you know, be sure to reach out or go to the show notes where I have everything linked. Okay, guys, let's get to the show. Hello, friends. I am so excited to have this guest on today. She is such a darling, sweet person who I have just been absolutely blessed to get to know. I've never met her in person. She's somebody else who I've kind of met through the internet. But just for a little quick background story before we introduce her, I was looking for a printing company to print my planner that I created actually last year, my original one, because I wanted it to be spiral bound. Well, I looked and couldn't find anybody. Finally, the Lord put Mikel on my Instagram feed and put her in front of me and her beautiful printing company called 4 Pillars Printing. And she was able to print a bulk order for me of exclusive spiral bound planners, which if you're new here, maybe you don't know what that is, but I have been promoting this planner for a couple months now. It goes along with a course that you can also purchase through me. But this planner was just done so well. She is so talented and just definitely really pays attention to her work. She is a fellow homeschool mama. So we have that in common, and I just cannot wait to talk to her today. So I really hope you enjoy this interview. So without further ado, here is Mikel Dyer. Hi, Mikel. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I am great. So I am so excited for this interview, and I did already do a little introduction, but I just love how I found you. And before we get into the questions, I just want to give a little extra background on how I found you. So yes. I had made a planner. Oh my gosh. So not this past year, but the year before was my first one. And I, sold it on Amazon, whatever. But I was like, gosh, I need like a printing company. And I was seriously like praying about it. And somehow across my Instagram feed, here comes 4 Pillars Printing, which is Mikel's company. And I was like, it's an answered prayer. And then, so for me, I'm like, okay, well, I need to just call you because I need to know how this works. So we called each other and we kind of just talked through everything. And I sort of told you my vision of my next planner and the whole 9 yards. And then the rest was kind of history. So that is how I got to know Mikel. She's so sweet, a fellow homeschool mom, like I said earlier too, which I always love. And so, yeah, I'm just so excited to chat with you today.
Yes, me too. It was such a fun connection. And I mean, instantly from our first phone call, I feel like we just clicked and like understood how we wanted to do things. So that was a really fun project.
Yes, definitely. And, it always helps when you have a lot in common with somebody. And, as we got to talking, we also realized that there is military background in our families and everything too. Yes. And so there's just, there's just a lot of connections, and it's just cool how God does that. We always have to credit him because is. That's what it is. But it is. It's just so neat to see those God winks. So yes, I have loved that. So, okay, why don't we get into the first question? And it's very simple. Just tell us who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm Mikel. I own 4 Pillars Printing, as Amanda said. I guess a little bit of backstory. I have been married nearly 10 years, nearly 11 years, y'all.
Wow.
Nearly 11 years. We are a military family, so we have moved 7 times in those nearly 11 years. We have 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. And like I said, military. My husband is a Marine. And what do I do? Well, I'm a wife and a mom and a homeschooling mom. And now we've kind of done this entrepreneur life. And we started 4 Pillars Printing almost 2 years ago. And we really specialize in any e-resources. So think like homeschool curriculum, cookbooks, workout guides, nutrition, pretty much like any e-resource, like from all these amazing influencers and great minds out there that are like bringing material that you would never have access to in the past that's online. We can print that and bring it to life.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love that. And I have seen so many really cool things come across your Instagram feed of different things that you have printed. And that's so cool. And so for homeschool, we do CC, which I think you know, classical conversations. And so we kind of get all of our curriculum through there. But if I were a homeschooler who like didn't do that, I would be having you print like everything under the sun because it's just so great to have those resources. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, we love it. It's so fun. We get to find so many cool resources. The problem for me being a homeschool mom is I'm like, I should buy this.
Right?
We need that. And I'm like, okay, wait, reel it in. Like, remember your focus because there's so many awesome resources, but we can't use them all.
I know. That's so true. And I often think of that too. I know a lot of homeschool moms who don't have like a set curriculum like CC is, and they just have bookshelves and bookshelves of all this stuff. And like, sometimes I find myself a little envious of it. But I'm like, you know what though? I'm kind of glad that I don't have like that pull of overwhelming, like I need to get everything because I do feel that way. I just know that in the long run, I probably really don't need it. So
yes, I would tell people pros and cons and you have to know what serves your family well.
Right, exactly. So the next question is, what made you want to start a printing business? And well, there's a second part to that question, but I'll let you answer that one first. Like why printing? What was it about that?
So great question. I'll back up. I wasn't even really formally homeschooling yet, right? We just kind of were like, well, we don't really feel the need to like put him in school yet when our oldest was approaching kindergarten. And my husband was homeschooled in the younger years, and then I was homeschooled in high school. So we kind of have a reverse experience. And I went to print a free resource at a big box store, and it was going to cost me nearly $300. And I'm like, well, he's 5, and this was free. No, thank you. And it was like, there has to be a better way. So I go online and I'm like searching basically what we are now, like homeschool printing companies and resources, how to print affordably, all these things. And I went and I printed with a, online shop. And it took me like 16 weeks to get to me. I was halfway through our school year. I was using other things and everything was fine. And I was like, there has to be a better way. So we just kind of started exploring it and playing around with equipment in our downstairs guest room. And my husband was like doing his MBA at the time. He's like, this is like a real business. I think you got something here. So we just kind of took it one step at a time. We really believe in like debt-free living. And so we said, okay, we're going to put X amount of dollars into our business, and what God provides from there, that's how we'll grow. And that's a really big portion of how we do business. And here we are. We keep adding equipment, adding services, and just so excited to serve families and to the best of our ability.
I love it. And one of my favorite things about like entrepreneurial journeys and, getting into business ownership, which I do talk a lot about on this show, is the problem solving. Like there's got to be a better way. I swear that like almost everybody who gets into business of some sort, like has had that thought. There's got to be a better way.
Absolutely.
And then they create the solution. And that is so like my personal personality, which is why I have always tried to like stick on the entrepreneur path. But yeah, that's so true. And so I love hearing that. Like, here you are trying to find a solution for yourself and are not finding a good one. And you just made the solution. And that is like, entrepreneurship 101. I love it so much.
Yes.
But to add on then to that question, like, what is your best advice, as, an entrepreneur, a business owner, what like keeps you going? Because it's hard. And like I said, we talk about this a lot on the show, and I really try to give the best advice I can give, being a, 8.5-year entrepreneur, but everybody's different and it can be really tough. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think it can be a grind. It's important going into entrepreneurship with taking the rose-colored glasses off of entrepreneurship is amazing and fantastic. And for our family, there's so many pros to it, but every day is not fun. But in the balance of it is so rewarding. But you have to kind of know how did the Lord wire you and lean into that. So for me, I am creative. So sometimes printing feels very this isn't very creative, and I can get down on that. But there is such a creative side to entrepreneurship, no matter what business you decide to go with, or there's a way to integrate those into it. So I would say lean into what the Lord is calling you to. Yes. And when I'm needing to be creative, my business allows me to do that.
Right.
So that might be different for somebody else, but I love the big ideas, and I love the problem solving, and I love connecting with other business owners and customers. I'm really a deep relationship. Let's troubleshoot this. I love talking to other entrepreneurs and troubleshooting their, where they're at. And that's just a big part of it for me, is the connection and bringing dreams alive, whatever that looks like.
Yes, I love that. And it just, I feel like when your mind is in the right place and you're not hitching every single thing on your business endeavor, you can breathe a little more and the pressure's off, and you can just enjoy what it is and what the Lord has in it for you. I know that can't necessarily be everybody's experience if they, are in business for themselves and they have to provide for their entire family. But at the end of the day, just taking that approach of just a restful mind in that. And I'm always preaching about being restful and not going so hard that you burn out, but just you know what I mean? Just taking a step back and just sort of letting things happen while still working hard, and I definitely think that there is a balance there for sure. But it sounds like you've got the right mindset for it.
Well, and I guess the practical side of that, right? I think sometimes that sounds beautiful and lovely. That's a tension you got to work out constantly.
Right.
But the practical side of that, I guess, for business ownership, and my advice would be checklists. I love a good checklist.
Yeah.
It helps me have freedom and keep me in rhythm. It takes off that restriction that I can kind of allow my brain to be more creative. So
absolutely.
That's kind of my other secret. Is a good classic checklist.
Yes. I love the checklist. Obviously, as a planner creator, I am very into.
I love that as a part of your planner.
Yes, I love the checklists, and and obviously, mine's set up with time blocking. But I actually just did a reel today on how you don't even have to use the time blocks. You can just write a list, but essentially the time blocks are a list. I mean, that's really all it is. But list making is so underrated, and I know a lot of people it can give them anxiety, and I get that, so I don't pressure anybody, but I just always encourage people to at least give it a shot. It just really gives you the structure that you might need, as a business owner or whatever, a mom, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget something, you have, especially as an entrepreneur, a mom, a wife, a me, I have all these balls in the air, and to juggle it well, I have to have my brain on paper somewhere.
Right.
So,
I know.
The brain on paper to get it on paper.
Absolutely. So true. Okay, so let's do a homeschooling question, since we have that in common, because I love homeschooling, and I've done a couple episodes on homeschooling as well. And oddly, and I guess I shouldn't say oddly, but it does surprise me sometimes, because they're not totally in line with everything I always talk about on here, but a lot of times they get a lot of traction. Like people are curious about it. And I think the world we're living in today, more and more people are drawn to that idea at least and want to explore it. And I just posted on my stories yesterday about if socialization is the reason that you're not homeschooling, you got to stop telling yourself that myth because it's not true. My boys actually get more now, and they were actually in public school for the first 2 or 3 years. So I can directly compare. My boys get more socialization now than they did then because we're done with school. Usually, hopefully, the goal is in the morning, and then we can have play dates, or maybe there is a neighbor that can play, or like whatever, and or they're just being creative with their own minds. So anyway, that's my little plug. Obviously, I mean, I have a ton of homeschooling plugs.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Right. And I know you being in the military, well, I don't know if you do live on base, but I know with my sisters and their families and living on base, and like so many people are homeschooled. So then like literally they're like outside playing all afternoon, every afternoon. So socialization is not an issue.
Absolutely. I always say on-base living is one of my favorite things is it gives your kids a retro childhood. It just reminds me of I think this is what it would have been back in the 50s. I don't know.
That's so true.
Just a retro childhood, and it allows them to be kids, which is such a special gift to give, especially for military kids who are constantly moving around. So.
Yes, definitely. So what other, what advice do you have for either already homeschooling moms or families or anybody that's thinking about it, and something's holding them back?
Yeah, well, so I think new homeschoolers, my biggest advice to them is start slow. You don't have to have a full schedule when you start. Ease into it as a family and see what, allows you to thrive, Yeah. So pick out your couple core subjects and do those and do it well. And then as your family's getting comfortable, maybe 2 weeks in, add one more thing to your day until you've built out your schedule in a way that really serves you. Yes. I think that's a mindset we kind of have to adjust to as homeschoolers, whether you're going straight to homeschooling, just have a young child and you're having, more structured days, or if you pulled from public school and you're okay, I have this vision of what school is supposed to be, right. And you have to kind of rewire that a bit.
Oh, so
and
much.
I mean, that's normal and okay,
Right.
But I think you can start slow, and that is okay. That's something we have maintained in our homeschool. Coming back after the holidays, we started slow. We didn't jump back into it, and we've been my kids. This is all I know,
Yes.
But I think also, I guess people just starting homeschooling, or you've been in this journey, just remember why you do this. Everyone has their unique why of why you homeschool. And for us, travel is a big part of our life, and relationships. Relationships matter so deeply to us. So there are times school stops, and being a homeschooler allows us to do that. Yeah. So we build travel into our schedule. Education is truly a lifestyle to us, and I think a lot of homeschoolers identify that as well. And formal academics really is only a small portion of that. So remember why you homeschool and make sure you're building that into it. So have time for the experiences, have time for people. When grandma and grandpa come to town, we typically stop school and spend time, and when education is a lifestyle, my kids are learning every day. That doesn't stop when we put the math workbook away.
Right.
So I guess that's my biggest advice. Just remember it and focus on what truly is important. These little people and who they are is what's important. I know we want to teach them that experiences and people matter more than anything in the world. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love all of that. Of course, I agree with every single word. But that is definitely, it is kind of a relearning process. Like I said, my boys were in public school. We started homeschooling in 2020 when everybody started homeschooling, when everybody in America. And I'm not going to lie, it was always on my radar. I just didn't think I had it in me. Well, the Lord does funny things, right? And so he threw everybody into it. And I was like, oh, I can do this. And then I also saw the amount of work that that the public school expected during that time. And I was like, okay, I can definitely do this because it's definitely less than we think. And at the end of the day, like I'm not trying to dog, public school, but it is a lot of times, there's a lot of other stuff going on there. It isn't just the formal education because they have a 6-7 hour day they have to fill, right? And so, when you come home with the education, you do not need to think that you're schooling for 6 or 7 hours because they are not doing that in school, for sure.
Right.
So that it did kind of ease my mind, but it was hard in the beginning. I was like, okay, we got to be structured. Well, and I'm a structured person anyway, but I'm like, okay, we got to sit down. We got to do this, And it was fine for a while. But then I was like, the more I got into it and around my, fellow CC moms, I'm like, okay, I am definitely being way too overboard here. These expectations are way too high. And it's been so good since then. And I think one of the most rewarding things is, in the first year of me homeschooling, I'm like, oh, they learned that in public school. They already knew this. But now that this is our third year and I know that the things that they have in their brain are coming from what I have taught them, what they've learned in CC or what they've learned around their other peers, around their dad, around other adults. And I'm like, oh, this is like the fruit of my labor. And it is just so amazing.
Yes, I love that. I think it's so important to bring community into it and to remember they are learning and they're growing so much. Mm-hmm. And I love that your story of bringing them home and just knowing that kind of was being whispered into you already. Mm-hmm. So you had oh, do I do this? Do I not? But I feel like so many people are, being called to homeschool, and I don't think that is a coincidence by any stretch of the imagination.
Absolutely. And I know we always want to doubt ourselves, or at least I did. I am not smart enough. How can I'm not a teacher. But the other thing I've learned is, well, did I go to school for 12 years? Yeah. And then I also went to college and graduate school. And no, I don't have a teaching degree, but I am teaching my boys what I have learned. So it's not like I'm teaching them something that I know nothing about. I learned it in my education. Right. And the other beautiful thing is redeeming your education. I can't believe how much I've redeemed my education. I'm definitely, and I can say this with confidence, I am way smarter now than I've ever been.
Yes, exactly. I tell my husband all the time, okay, I knew how to do this, but I didn't really realize why we did it that way.
Right.
I'm learning, and it's all these fun connections. And it's fun to be able to tell my kids,
Right.
I don't know the answer to that question, but let's look it up together. And I think that's a good thing to demonstrate to our kids too, of I don't have to know it all. I'm an educated woman, but I don't know it all, and that's okay.
And that is okay.
Let's go explore how to get these answers together. I think that's a good thing for them to see and learn.
Right. And I do agree. I love finding the answers together. And I've said this to many friends in the past, and my dog is barking. It's funny. We're gonna roll with it because Michael and I were talking about this at the beginning. How she's being a little ornery today. My boys are not here, but she is. She will eventually stop. But one thing that, of course, I'll probably lose my train of thought. We were talking about redeeming education and how I've loved, when my boys were in public school, if they asked me a question, right, about anything, really, I mean, unless I really felt like telling them my answer, I was just like, or I give a half-hearted answer. I'd just be like, because I'm like, well, they're in school. Their teacher's going to teach them that. They'll learn that. I mean, that's a horrible way of thinking. And I really can't believe that I thought that way. But I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm not their education. I'm not their educator. They'll get it, But then when they came home, I was like, and, when we started homeschooling, I'm like, whoa. I have to answer this question now. This is me. I'm their educator. Yes. But I love what you were saying because that is... I loved then exploring those answers with them. I was like, well, this is a whole thing that I thought I didn't have time for and you'll learn it in school, blah, blah. But no, it's actually wonderful to be able to learn it or relearn it with your kids. And so it's just been wonderful. I mean, and honestly, we could talk probably all day about homeschooling, but in the interest of time, let's move on to the next question. And maybe if I poll my audience and they really like this, I will have you on again and we will talk all homeschooling, and that would be great.
Sounds good.
Okay, so The next thing, I was thrilled to have you print my planners. Obviously, they're beautiful. And I was also happy to give you access to my course. And I, again, thank you for sharing that for me. That was always so helpful. But let's talk about time management for a little bit. And how do you work in your printing business with homeschooling, or how, like, what are some strategies you use to kind of organize your day, right? To get it all done, which I know nobody ever gets it all done, you know, but how do you structure your day, at least to try to keep it organized?
Right. Well, I have to say, like, your course honestly came at such a, the Lord was in it. It was at such a time where I was like, the business was picking up, things are getting busier. We recently moved, like all these things. And I really needed to, I don't know, it's easy to, we moved, everything was, changed to reestablish a rhythm and a schedule in this new environment, in this new time. So your course really was such a gift and a time to, like, okay, reflect on what's working well, what's not. So I think your course is so awesome. It has so many things, so much good advice, but I also love that, like, your voice, which is not surprising, I'm sure, to all your podcast listeners, like, is so full of grace and encouragement. Like, yes, we can be better. We can do better. And there's all these time management things to do better. And it's okay to want better, but, we should have grace and encouragement in our life. So I was just thankful that was just such a part of your course. But I would say my time management style really thrives off of a rhythm and not routine.
Okay.
So like I said, I have 4 kids, 8, 6, 4, and 2.
Whew.
So they're quite close together, but at the same time, an 8-year-old is very different than a 2-year-old.
Yes.
So my time blocking is not really by the hour these days, although that sounds great. One day I will get there. But so I have, like, a morning. I have a before like lunch and nap time, and then we have a during nap time block schedule, and then we have a from wake up until dinner time with my 2-year-old. So that's how it kind of goes off of my 2-year-old schedule, and then we navigate those rhythms through that, because honestly, the whole family thrives. So then I can get more done in a peaceful way,
Yes.
So that's really kind of how it works in our house. My time block is more times of the day.
Yes.
And that works well for us in the season. And I know, this is a season and that's going to change. And just constantly reevaluating, like, I don't want to be a master, like, or be a slave to the clock.
Yes.
But I do want to, spend my time wisely. Like, we only have so many hours and minutes in a day. So that rhythm really allows me to stick to a schedule while being, a wife and a mom and me and a teacher. And I think in nearly 2 years of business and those, like, extra homeschool years before that really taught me, like, rhythm equals freedom. Like, it's not a restriction for me. It allows me to have that freedom. And then I guess back to our checklist, like, those really help me. And I have, so my little checklist structure is I have one for every area of my life. And I try and pick one thing from the checklist to do every day in my different areas of life that I've identified. And that allows me to, like, okay, feel like I'm making progress in the different areas. And then if I have free time, I have that list laid out. I'm like, oh, you know what? I have some extra time to do some four pillars, like, behind the scenes work. Let me pick a task from my checklist. And it gives me, like, that structure while also, like, that creative brain of mine that doesn't like to be too, like, too structured. It gives freedom in that. So that's kind of how I balance, like, all the different hats without, making this to-do list that's a mile long, and at the end of the day feeling like, oh, well, I didn't do it again. I just pick one from each category, and then anything else is bonus. It's extra. So I
absolutely
love that. Practical side of it.
Yes. I absolutely love that. And I have heard of that in different places before, of, just of the areas of the life checklists, and I love it. And I need to look into that more and research it more and even try it for myself. Because that is a brilliant strategy, especially for, like you're saying, so many people want to give up on being productive and managing their time because they messed up once, or they maybe didn't check anything off. Well, if you have several lists like that and your goal is to just do one in each area, and even if you didn't, it's okay. Like, it's a much more kind of relaxed type of structure. And I'm always trying to preach that in what I do, but there is something stuck in people's brain, which I do not blame them at all, because I was like this too. But there's something stuck in people's brain where it's like, managing your time or being productive just is so dry. It doesn't allow for fun. It doesn't allow for time off. It doesn't allow for this and that. And I'm constantly trying to debunk that and say, actually, if you can learn some of these strategies in the long run, you will end up being more productive with your time, and then you'll be able to enjoy yourself more in other areas of your life. But it is hard, and not everybody is structured the same. But I also like how you're saying how your time blocks are more like times of day. That is very true for myself too. And even though, I will use my time block and I will write, 1:00 today we had our interview. Like, obviously that is a time. But
absolutely.
But I do have there's a few things I can do while the boys are homeschooling for a little while, nothing too rigorous because they're going to need me undoubtedly, but there's a few things I can do then. So there's, a little running list in my head, so to speak, of the things that I could maybe get done while they're schooling. But then in the afternoon, when they have their free time, well, that's when I can get my stuff done. So I definitely do that too, like zones, and even in the evening, I'm like, no work in the evening. I might answer like a message or a DM or whatever, but I have a strict rule about that. My husband's home from work and we are spending time together. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And I realize I do that too and didn't even realize it.
I love it.
Yes. Okay. So the last question that I like to ask my guests always is, how do you see yourself serving your audience or serving your community moving forward? Is there anything, obviously we know you have your printing business, which we love, and hopefully everybody will go check out and follow you on Instagram and all the things. But
we'd love to serve them.
Yes. But do you have anything on the horizon, anything new, anything you're adding or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have actually been slowly making some updates to our website to just kind of reflect where we're going in 2023. We just added a new binding option, which is disc binding, and it really is a fun option. It's kind of, the flexibility without being so committed to a spiral binding of 3-hole punch, but a little more finished than a binder look. So that's been a fun option that we've gotten great reviews on that a lot of people really like. It's a great planner option, actually.
Yeah.
Because you can add and remove pages. So that's been really fun. But I think our big thing is connecting well with digital creators and the community. So we're kind of we're featuring different small businesses on our blog, and we're really ramping that up and just creating a network of, like-minded people. We love that so many of our followers are, striving to live a life of freedom, whether that's in Christ, in homeschooling, and entrepreneurship, and maybe all three, we identify with those, and we're realizing, man, so many of our followers are homeschool moms, but they're also creators, and they're also business owners. So just navigating how we can serve different areas of life, beyond printing, because we love printing. We love bringing awesome resources, but honestly, our heart behind it is serving in a practical way. So we just love the connection about it.
Oh my gosh, I know. Me too. I love that is one thing that I do love about business ownership is the connecting with others in that way. And I love that you have the heart for that, and also, pulling in a homeschool mom that also has a business, because let's be real, that's another reason why a lot of families don't get into homeschooling, because they need the two incomes. And so supporting moms who are able to homeschool, in the morning, and then it's usually more of a part-time job, let's be real, in the afternoon when we're doing our job, right?
Exactly.
But it's possible, and it is something that I personally, if I have anybody ever asking me about homeschooling or kind of leaning that way, I'm always trying to say, it can be done, you can still possibly work. So, and a lot of times it is people who are owning their own business, or maybe they're in network marketing or whatever the case. And it's just so nice to be able to support those people, because they're doing everything they can for their families, and families come first. But it's really nice. And actually, because their family comes first is why they're doing the business on the side, so that they can make some extra income for their family. So, I love that so much. Woo!
Yay. Yes. I love that, we have that shared heart about different ways of how we serve, but really just that heart of, it's about, at the end of the day, it's about the family. Absolutely. And about community. So
absolutely. Well, I have just had so much fun. I always say this. Go ahead.
It's always a joy to talk with you.
I know. I know. I know. It's always a joy to talk with you. That sounded like, oh yeah, I know it's a joy to talk with me. No, that's not what I meant. It's a joy to talk with you. And I always I just think in my head every time I'm interviewing someone, I could seriously sit here for another hour and just talk. But that's because I'm a talker. That's probably why I have a podcast. But we should probably wrap it up. So
sounds good. Well, thank you for having me today. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. It was so much fun. And I do thank you again for being on. And maybe I'll have you on again some other time.
Sounds good. Talk to you again.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Bye-bye. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Mikel. I, of course, had so much fun, as I always do when I'm interviewing people. As you heard in the podcast, I could talk for hours with people I have on, and it's just a joy of mine. So I am so excited to continue to have more guests on the podcast in the upcoming weeks. I have lots of people lined up. You guys, I'm so excited. So please come back. Not every upcoming episode will have guests, but I think I have about 3 or 4 more lined up for this particular season until we take a small break for the summer. So definitely look forward to that. I know I'm excited. But I just wanted to plug one more second before I end out the show. We talked a lot about the planner that I created in this episode that she was able to print for me, which was so, so amazing. And I just want to remind you guys about that planner. Number one, that planner does not have dates in it. So you can purchase it now and it will be good for you for 14 months. So that's one beautiful thing about the planner. You get to put your own months and dates in it. So you can truly start it tomorrow and in the middle of a month and the middle of a year, doesn't matter, and plug the dates in yourself. And then you have it for 14 months until you have to purchase it again, which is amazing. So that planner is available, linked in the show notes. Also, the spiral bound versions that I still have available from the bulk order that I did with Mikel, they are available through my course. So if you purchase my course, which is also linked in the show notes, it's Take Back Your Time. It is a course on managing time and learning good productivity skills and learning how to use a planner and a schedule to your best ability so that you can be organized with your time. That is still available, also linked in show notes. Once you grab that planner, you will get a spiral bound version with the cost of the course, essentially. So it's free, which is amazing. So all of that is still linked in my show notes and still available. So if this intrigued you and you're looking for any of that, make sure you go down to the show notes and check that out. And also, you are always more than welcome to come to me with any questions you have. All right, guys, thanks again so much for tuning into this episode. I had such a great time. I hope you did too. And don't forget to live your life with passionate gratitude. We'll see you next time. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I really hope you subscribe and share with your friends. And don't forget to tag me on social media when you do. Always remember, lead your life with passionate gratitude. God bless. Until next time.